afternoon. Welcome. I'm your host, Melissa Ridgen. Thanks for being here today as we put Indigenous sport and athletes in focus. We've got some incredible athletes joining us today, and we want you to join in the conversation too. Of course, our phone lines are open. You can call us toll-free at 1-877-647-2786. You can also tweet us at APTN InFocus. Before I introduce you to our guests, APTN's Daryl Stranger sets the scene for us.
Sports have always played a key role in the lives of Indigenous people. It brings the community together, and even though they may not be professionals themselves, they take pride in their local teams and players. When someone makes it to the pros, everyone celebrates. They take pride knowing one of their own has made it and is succeeding. One name that resonates with everyone is Tom Longboat. Tom was an Onondaga distance runner from Six Nations of the Grand River in southern Ontario. He won the Boston Marathon in 1907 and is regarded as one of, if not the best, marathon runners ever.
I think he's been an inspiration to not only if you dream and you think you can do something, you keep at it and work at it, and you can achieve some of those successes. And he's inspiring other people, I think, to become more active and to get into sports.
Longboat's legacy is carried through the Tom Longboat Award for outstanding Indigenous athletes, who are recognized nationally and in each province. Past winners include Bridget Laquette, Jocelyn Larocque, James Lavallee, and Jordan Tutu. These athletes have strong ties to their communities and strongly believe in giving back.
My main focus is, helping our people get back on their feet, and because I feel that's my calling.
Indigenous people can use sport to express their voice. Many residential school survivors used sport as an escape from their daily lives. It isn't just the typical sports either. Traditional games and powwow take much more athletic talent than one might think. Sports has always held a place among Indigenous culture, and that will continue into the future. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Joining us now is James Lavallee. He is 2017's top male Indigenous athlete in Canada. He was honored with that prestigious Tom Longboat Award we just heard about. He is an elite Red River Métis paddler who competes in kayak racing. At the 2017 Canada Summer Games, he won 3 medals right here in Winnipeg, his hometown, and of course the homeland of the Métis Nation. And James is also a 2019 Inspire Award winner. And joining us from our Yellowknife Bureau is Fort Smith's very own Veronica Lee McDonald. She has competed in every Arctic Game since 2004, was a multi-gold medalist in 2018 Arctic Games. She competes in 1- and 2-foot high kick, Alaskan high kick, kneel jump, sledge jump, triple jump, and the arm pull. That's a mouthful and a half. And she is also the current world record holder in the junior kneel jump. And what was the other one?
The open women's triple jump.
So 2 world record holds you're holding currently. Okay, so I want to ask you, so James, it's fitting that, you're Red River Métis and you would be a paddler. But it wasn't always the case that those two things connected for you, like your culture with your sport. Explain the journey to us.
Totally. Well, I found kayaking because I was really struggling in school, and I have dyslexia and ADHD. So really nothing that I was doing in my life was really connecting, and I wasn't progressing in anything really. So that was very frustrating.
How old were you at this point?
I was under 11. So
Okay.
I started kayaking at about 11. And so I had done a bunch of different sports, and it was just terrible. So it didn't really help with the whole trying to find things that they helped me in my life. But then I started kayaking. The first time I got on the water, it was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders.
What was the water? Was it the Red River?
It was the Red River.
Yeah!
Of course, right? It was just an amazing feeling. And I continued to paddle, and then all of a sudden I realized, I'm actually progressing in this.
Yeah.
I'm getting stronger, I'm getting faster, and I'd never seen that in any sort of sport or school or whatever. And it took me a few years before I realized that, what I was doing, I wasn't progressing into something new. I was getting back to, a new version of what my ancestors had always done, which was being on the Red River, was paddling, they used it in a mode of a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle for me too, but it's with a much different aim, right?
Did you feel that? So you're there, you're paddling on the Red River, and you're thinking about my ancestors before me were here doing exactly this. Because you had said, I'd read somewhere that you weren't necessarily connected to your culture at this age.
Totally.
So this actually brought you to your culture in many ways.
Exactly. Yeah. So I grew up with parents who grew up that. It was taboo to be Métis, and that's our history. It's unfortunate, but we're moving past that, and we're becoming a strong, proud Métis, and there's a big resurgence of that, and so I'm very proud to bring that to light.
I love it, and we'll talk more about you take your sash when you're on the podium too, but we've got a picture, but we'll get to that in a minute. Veronica, so tell us how you got involved in these games that are obviously connected to your ancestors, your traditions, your family.
So I compete in what they call Inuit games, so it's not necessarily connected to me as I'm a Dene Chippewa First Nation woman. So I'm from more of like the southern, northern Alberta kind of area there. So it's kind of interesting for me to compete in these games as these are more northern games. So it's kind of fun because I grew up in an area where Dene games, such as stick pull and, pole push were a big hit down where I was. So competing in Inuit games was a family thing. My mother actually competed since she was 12 years old, learned from a guy named Ernie Bernhardt, who was from Inuvik, and she began training with him, attending a lot of our winter games as well. And then he had to eventually move away, where my grandfather took the initiative to begin training her. And so I got into it when I first watched my mother in the 2000 Arctic Winter Games, I think in Whitehorse. Wow. And I was only about 4 years old, and I walked into a gym of a full stadium of people watching my mother, and she kicked, I think it was the 1 foot high kick, and I saw her land, and everybody immediately started clapping. And as a young girl, I was just so inspired. So it was that day I remember telling my grandfather, I want to do what Mom is doing. And so after that day, he took interest in me and started training me. And eventually I just progressed enough to, at the age of 8, I made my first Arctic Winter Games in 2004 in the Wood Buffalo Games there.
That's crazy. And so how many events do you participate in every Games?
Typically 7. The minimum you can join is 4, but my grandfather always told me that you're not going to join the minimum. You should probably, give everything a try once. And so ever since then, I've always never backed out from either event, and I've always tried all 7.
That's crazy. So the 2017 Canada Summer Games were in Winnipeg last year. How did you feel? You were competing in your hometown, and your connection to it's the Métis homeland. So tell me how that gets in your head before the games.
Yeah, I always have a really hard time describing exactly what that feels, especially people who don't really have a connection to where they're living. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of surreal. It was a really cool experience. I felt like my ancestors were there when I was on the water, sort of power, right? So that was just pushed me into for more motivation to continue on and go through the next seasons and push as far as I can. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a big role in that for those games.
Yeah, and you won 3 medals.
Yes.
The Canada Games, and I think we have a picture of you on the podium representing. We'll pull it up, or if we don't have it right now, we'll get to it later. But so, what do you? You wear your sash for this. I can't even imagine. I have a young child. I can't even imagine how proud your parents must be to see their son victorious in this, and up there in their sash, up there in your sash.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a big thing for a lot of people. Our mission staff was Indigenous as well, and I could tell everyone was really excited about that. I was very proud.
There we go. We can see the picture
awesome.
There now.
That's good.
Up on the podium, sashing it up. I love it.
Yeah. So it was just, I wanted to bring the focus of the games to, really where we were it being the homeland of the Métis Nation, and that we do have Indigenous athletes participating in the games, and I wanted to bring that to light. So I think
Did you meet a lot of Indigenous athletes at the games?
Did I meet a lot of them? There was myself, and there was others.
Yeah.
But there's not enough, and that's something that I want to see in the future. Is we really bump up our Indigenous athletes in greater quantities at things like the Canada Games. And
yeah. Well, I mean, Indigenous people are athletic by their very nature, so you'd like to see it more represented in competitive sport for sure. Okay, I'm going to go back to Veronica for a second. Tell us how you train for this. I want to know, like, a typical day of your training for, you've got 7 events that you have to train for. Do you train for each of them every day, or is there a cycle? Tell us how it works.
It's more of a cycle. I do a lot of weight training, especially the plyometrics, working on my vertical, because it's a lot of jumping required for most of them, like the 1-foot high kick, 2-foot high kick, and especially the kneel and jump and the triple jump is a lot of forward movement and upward movement with the jumping. So I train a lot of that about 4 times a week, and then I take about 2 days to practice actually doing the events themselves. I don't do any more than 2 days a week. It's just really hard on the body too, and I don't want to injure myself more than I already have, so I kind of save that for competition.
And do you work with younger athletes who watch you? I mean, you said that when you were 4, you walked in and saw your mom, and the crowd goes wild. I'm sure you've been doing these games since 2004. There's probably a number of kids that come in and have seen you do it, and the crowd go wild. Do you work with any of them?
Yeah, absolutely. I work with a lot of youth in the NWT here, kind of training them and introducing anybody and everybody into, what I do, where the culture is from, and, different kind of games that we play as fun and as competitive too.
So what kind of a toll does this take on your body? I mean, we watched some of it when we were talking a little bit earlier. You could see some of the high jump, the 1-leg and 2-leg high jump or high kicks is. And I remember I've seen this live at the World Indigenous Games and watching the people land and thinking, this just looks like a broken leg waiting to happen. Is there injuries associated with this? What toll is it taken on you?
Injury is prone to happen, but in any sport, injury is, happening to anybody and anybody. It just depends on kind of luck and, the execution of your kick. If I went to go do the 1-foot high kick and, I landed on my knee in a weird position, I could hurt myself like that. But necessarily, it's not really, you don't see a lot of people hurting themselves. A lot of us who do it, train really hard, and we train really smart as well. We get good warm-ups in before we do anything all the time, just because we all know it's fairly hard on your body. So I've hurt my knee, and I'm not going to lie to you, I have hurt my knee this past World Indigenous Games, just doing the 1-foot high kick. But it was also something I've never done before. Like the 1-foot high kick there was called traditional 1-foot high kick. So you take off with 1 foot, you kick with 1 foot, and you land on the same foot.
Yeah.
What they call Canadian 1 foot is you take off with 2 feet, you kick with 1 foot, and you land on the same foot you kick with. So it was kind of a little bit of a learning experience for me, and caused a little bit of an injury. But necessarily, if you warm up good enough and you know what you're doing, then you shouldn't cause too much trouble other than the sore muscles the next day.
Well, we should tell people then who are watching the video of this, don't try this at home, I guess, right? I feel like that would be a fair disclaimer.
I always tell people to try.
What is the hardest event for you, and why?
The hardest event for me, in all honesty, I'd probably say the 1-foot high kick. It's the most popular event that we do. Everybody that wants to do it always wants to try the 1-foot high kick, and a lot of people are actually fairly good at it. However, for myself, I find a lot of difficulties with it, especially stretching and everything, trying to get to the higher heights. I can't say that I don't kick very low. I've kicked about probably 7 feet. But it's harder for me to go any higher than that because it's just gets so technical after that. There's like the pointing of the foot, and then, there's taking off at the perfect distance away from the target. And it's just, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around that one.
Well, I watch it and I can't wrap my brain around it, and you're seeing it be done. Tell me, so triple jump, You compete in triple jump. Is that the same as triple jump in track and field?
No, so it's not. So it's a similar aspect of it. You do take 3 jumps and then you land, prone to a standing position and you get a distance. However, you can either do a running or a standing takeoff. And what happens is you take 3 jumps, landing on the same 2 feet each time, and you try and get as far as you can. So you can't step on a line, you can either land at the very end or you can just roll away and try and get as far as you can. However, your distance isn't as accurate. So it's a little bit more difficult, more kind of the same as track and field though.
I'm going to have to ask my bosses next time for the Arctic Games if I can go get assigned to go cover them. James, I want you to tell me about your training regime, what goes into being a competitive kayaker.
For sure. Well, it changes throughout the year. So right now, the Red River is very much frozen. So I'm indoors in the morning, laid back this year. I'm only starting at like 7.
Only 7. Only a 7 a.m.
That's
start.
Not bad. If I
before
make it
you
there
go
on
on
time.
and be a university student too, right?
And so I do my first workout, and lately we've been making it kind of short. I do a kayak machine, so it's like a rowing machine, but it's a kayak, so it's stationary kayaking, if that makes sense. Maybe not. But, so it's stationary kayaking indoors. It's kind of how that goes.
And how long?
It would be anywhere from like a half hour to an hour in the morning, depending on how I'm feeling. We've just kind of been touch and go lately. And then noon on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm in the gym at the U of M. I'm training with the Canadian Sports Centre in Manitoba.
Okay.
And they have a fantastic weights coach and things like that.
Oh, look at this. We've got some kayaking biz there.
And
that's you?
That's me.
There he goes. Where is this taking place?
This is in Texas. This is our club here, and that's a kayak machine that's on the stationary kayaking. But so I kind of train about 10 times a week right now. And come mid-January, I go to Florida for a few months, where they're not so hard of water. It's much softer. You can actually kayak. And stay there for a few months, and I'll be training in Trois-Rivières for the summer, probably.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And this is, okay, so then take us to what's a year that you're competing, like 2017. Does your training change at all, or is it?
Yeah, it varies a lot. Like the beginning, when we get on the water again, we'll be doing long, slow paddling workouts and keep the weights still pretty consistent. And then as we progress, we'll do faster, shorter stuff, and the weights might get more explosive, and kind of train those sort of things. And then when we come up to a competition, we actually ease off a bit, kind of get some rest for the week or 2 weeks before, and then we can kind of feel fresh going into the races.
That's awesome. I want to know, do you have any superstitions? Do you have anything that you have to do before a race?
That's good. I've had a few in the past, and they're not really superstitions, but I've been really bad at remembering what lane number I am. It's one of my unfortunate bad qualities I have. So I always triple check that. Sometimes I have to run back and check again just to make sure and not have the wrong lane.
Not like a little cheat note on your hand with a Sharpie?
That would be smart. I'll utilize that this next year.
That's what I'd say. You Sharpie it up on your hand. You don't have to go back 3 times to check again.
Totally. And, the other thing that I'm starting to do is I always eat a bunch of sugar right before I go. So lately I pop a Jolly Rancher in my mouth before I'm heading out for my warm-up.
Particular flavor?
I like the blue one, whatever that is.
Okay.
And that kind of is like, there's so much sugar in there. So it kind of stimulates the brain a bit and kind of makes me feel more awake.
I like it.
Yeah.
Veronica, do you have any superstitions, things you have to do before your competition?
I always have to listen to a song about jumping. It's just kind of something I've always done. I just sit there in a corner and I just listen to music by myself. And I always wear 2 hoodies and 2 sweatpants just to keep my body warm all the time. So if I don't do that, I feel like I'm just not ready.
The song about jumping, is it that, well, you guys are both too young to remember this one. I think it was Crisscross that did jump around or something. Is that the song?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Are you serious? No. Are you serious?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm happy that somebody knows Crisscross, so that's your age. Okay, well, we are going to take a break.
That's exactly it.
We're going to go to a little commercial break. Thank you so much, Veronica, for joining us. When we come back,
no problem.
we're going to talk with powwow dancing. So whether it's traditional or contemporary, the athleticism and training that is involved might shock you. Stay with us. Join our conversation now. You can call in toll-free at 1-877-647-2786. Like and watch us live on the APTN News Facebook page. Follow and tweet us at APTN InFocus. And send your thoughts in an email to infocus@aptn.ca. Join our conversation now. You can call in toll-free at 1-877-647-2786. Like and watch us live on the APTN News Facebook page. Follow and tweet us at APTN InFocus. And send your thoughts in an email to infocus@aptn.ca. So when you think of powwow, it's usually images of beautiful regalia and dance that would come to mind. But what about the athleticism that's involved? The stamina to dance all day in heat a lot of times. It takes all year to maintain that. Buffy Handel of the Aboriginal School of Dance in Winnipeg offers a fitness program from a cultural perspective. She joins us from Calgary today, but she stopped by the studio, or she stopped by here at our studio yesterday before she went out of town to Calgary. Gave us a little bit of a demonstration, which we will see as we chat. And Michelle Landon joins me here in studio. Michelle has been a jingle dancer for over 30 years, and she does a lot during the off season to keep in shape for powwow season. Thank you, guys. So Buffy, is Buffy there? I can hear you.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to see some of the demonstration that you gave us yesterday as we chat. I'm going to ask first about jingle dress.
Yes.
Michelle, how much does the jingle dress weigh?
Between mine, it's right now about 8 pounds.
About 8 pounds.
Yes, there's about like 400 cones on it right now.
And how many, have you ever calculated how many dances, how many hours you dance a year?
No.
Actually,
no, I haven't, but it would be a really good thing to do.
So tell us about your training regime to stay in shape for powwow season.
On my lunch hours, I run about maybe 3 kilometers a day, so about 45 minutes just to keep up the stamina. You don't want to be like dancing and all of a sudden you're red-faced and almost passing out while you're waiting, right? So,
Have you ever seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody
I've
go
done
down
that.
just from exhaustion?
No, just from the heat itself. Like, yeah, I would sit there and then I kind of put my head back and that was it. I passed out.
Jeez. So, and Michelle, or Buffy, so
Yeah.
you tell our audience who might not be familiar what you incorporate in your fitness training.
Well, for myself, being involved in the dance community as well, I mean, there was a certain point where, you know, attending different ceremonies, different dancing ceremonies, traveling throughout the world and dedicating 20 years worth of my life. What I did was I actually did a combination of both spiritual learning as well as the physical fitness portion of combining all of these practices together, because for the Indigenous culture, fitness isn't just about that physical part of things. I mean, all human beings are born with 4 original entities to survive this world, and to try to look at the physical self as something that is completely separate from the emotion, the spirit, and the knowledge part of a spiritual being having human experiences, that physical portion is in combination. So I think that, you know, being physically fit is something that really kind of entrusts into our culture as well, and that are extremely interconnected. So being able to build on a fitness program that stimulates a balance and in honoring who we are as Indigenous people and not feeling obligated to leave who we are behind in order to practice or to even be honored as physically fit individuals in not only ceremony but also in today's society.
I'm curious to know, here we go. We have Buffy. This is Buffy in our studio yesterday giving us a little bit of a demonstration.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Can you see this? Yeah. I know. Well, and so Buffy gave me a little bit of a demonstration and then tried to teach me how to do it, and as she could attest, I'm not the most coordinated person you've ever seen.
Everybody's entitled to do daycare level.
Right, right. So what would you say, I'm curious to hear both of you guys' answer from this, what would you think would be the most the dance that would require the most stamina, male or female? Buffy, we'll start with you on the phone.
You know what, most people think that, male styles of dance are, or even whether that's jingle dress or fancy shawl, but they all have their own honorable ways to look at the different type of stamina that's needed. I mean, you go into the women's traditional category. The women's traditional category, as subtle as it looks, is actually, it is very hard. And even if you were to take somebody that's been bouncing around for years and then you switch them into a different category, you're actually utilizing a different mesh of muscle tone altogether. So either way, you're going to end up sore if you switch to another category. So I don't really like to actually categorize the different level of stamina as being something greater than the other. And just like how in our Indigenous culture, one is just as honorable as the other, and it's about walking and balance and not thinking that one is better than the other. Mm-hmm. So I don't think for myself that I could ever really say that one dance style is harder because of that movement, because all of them are very challenging and all of them are equally honorable.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, have you just always been a jingle dancer? Have you tried any of the other dances?
No, I started off doing fancy dance. Yes, yeah. As a young, I think like 13 years old, and then as when I had my babies, right, I changed to jingle, and then now my daughter, Michelle Jr. Actually, she was a jingle dress dancer as well.
Interesting. And what made you make the change after you became a mom?
I have no idea. I don't know why or how. Yeah, I just all of a sudden, next thing you know, I wanted to try jingle dress. And like Buffy said, it is different, right? Like what I was doing from the fancy, right, is like lighter and faster footwork, right? Now with the jingle dress, right, it's poise, it's balance, it's, just
whole different set of muscles.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, and I think too that quite often how we transition into our dance forms is actually the depiction of what our role and our responsibility is to our dance society. So, just like Michelle, I started off as fancy and bouncing around really light, and that was part of my role in the dance society. But again, as we I don't want to say get older, but as we transition, yeah, and that's exactly it. That's the key word. As we mature, our roles to our dance society change, and in which the way that our posture and the way that we do things, like you take the origin of the jingle dress, originally having 365 cones being put on a dress to symbolize each day out of a full year. You start to become mindful of those things. So as you transition into the different age categories, that is the symbolism that you're ready to accept the role and the responsibility based off of your maturity, your knowledge, and your experience. And then you let other people, you kind of like pass that torch on to your younger ones so that they can then revitalize a dance style. So like I was saying earlier, our physical fitness isn't just about what we're capable or not capable of doing anymore because of how apparently, quote unquote, how old we might be, but rather it's about interconnecting that everybody has and plays an important role in our society, and we all have something to give. And based off of what level we're willing to accept our responsibilities, then create the different categories of choice.
Yeah. Well, I guess as part of this then, what's the next evolution? I'm curious if you guys have thought, either one of you, what the next dance would be for you.
I'm thinking that once I become a grandmother, I would turn into a traditional role of dancing.
So you see that in the future?
Yes, no, just not right now, but eventually.
Yeah. Buffy?
Yeah. Well, and for myself, I've been trained in all categories of dance, so it is whatever responsibility that is requested of me. So I am trained and actually do have, I have over 45 different pieces of regalia. This is something that, again, I've been doing full time for over 20 years. But again, that role is starting to change, and again, there are some outfits that I pass along. And I mean, for anybody that ever really kind of knows me directly, I'm 37 years old, but I have a multi-mesh of different responsibilities, and me being a mother. I'm not only a mother to my own biological children, but I'm also a mother to, in total, you include the adopted ones, 21 children, and I have 5 grandchildren.
And are your kids or grandkids dancing?
Every single one of them, they've learned how to beat, they've learned how to sing, they've learned how to dance, and they've been trained in all categories, not just one style.
Wow. Michelle, what about your kids? How many kids do you have, first
Two.
of all?
Two. Blaze doesn't dance, but Michelle does.
And she's Jingle too?
Yes. She started Jingle, and she'll probably stay Jingle now.
How long has she been doing it?
She's 22, so I'd say 19 years, 20 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Buffy, tell us what you offer at the Aboriginal School of Dance. What are you guys all about?
Well, anybody that kind of like looks at the format of the Aboriginal School of Dance, the Aboriginal School of Dance is actually broken into 3 sections. The first section is just pure entertainment. So there's different organizations, conferences, different schools that want to have entertainment. They can click on that. And then there's also our educational side, which again, we go in and we create different pieces of curriculum that serves as complement to get to know the Indigenous culture in the honorable way and our techniques that have great theory and philosophy. And then the third section is our in-house training. So you could have little or no knowledge whatsoever about dance. And our theories have been developed to the level that it's not just our own ethnicity's dance, but as well making that connection with the other parts of the world's format of dance. So that again, just as we as Indigenous people want to feel honored for our professional stamina, as well as our physical fitness and our forms of physical fitness, we also must be, in a position that we should be learning the honor behind any other cultural form of dance as well, which allows us to develop empathy and mindfulness. So anybody that's ever curious, you literally could have no knowledge whatsoever about Native American dance. You can come into our program as a beginner. And of course, there's this requirement of taking and learning from a good place, because it's not just about taking something and then running with it. It's about how may I serve. So if I pick up the skill and become a dancer, how may I serve my community to better the lives of other people? So these are some of the things that we really do focus on. We also have male dance group sessions. We have female dance group sessions. We have tiny tot turtle category. So our format is based off of what age they are.
Tell us a little bit. I know when we were here yesterday, we were chatting a bit about some success stories that you've had of people coming to connect with their culture through dance and their bodies healing as a result.
Yeah, so I, again, just being very physically active and, really focused on the Indigenous form of dance. The oldest member that I've had is 93 years old, and our youngest was 9 months. And we had one gentleman that was on the verge of being diagnosed diabetic, and within 3 months of starting the program, he lost 90 pounds. And so this is something that, again, even for myself, Aboriginal or First Nations or Powwow dance has been the golden stepping stone for self-realization. So even for myself, with each of those 3 pregnancies, I was approximately 240 pounds weighing in at the hospital, and even the doctors would look at me and, assess me, trying to think that I was, on the verge of becoming gestational diabetic. But again, it was I as an Indigenous person, I actually was putting on a lot of the weight during my pregnancy and was not gestational diabetic. But right after I had each of my babies, I would go right back into dancing again, and I would go back down to the 150 pounds, 120 pounds that I was, and I owe that to, having a spiritual connection to our form of physical movement.
That's crazy. That's a lot. That's hard on your body to get to that extreme and then to drop back down. What about you? Were you dancing when you were pregnant? Did you? No.
Well, you can't really dance when you're pregnant. You gotta just, kind of step away from it. But during
or train, I guess.
Train.
You were still
I was walking and swimming and whatnot just to stay in shape. But like after when the babies are born, right, you do your best to get back down to it. And like my jiggle dress, it's form fitting. There's no give to it, so I had to either make the dress to make another dress to fit me, or just target back to yourself to get into.
I never even thought of that, but that would be it. That's exactly it. I mean, the amount that goes into that regalia, you're not just going to go and whip up another one.
Absolutely.
Wow. I want to talk to you guys both about traditional dance, but is there a role that traditional diet has in your life as well?
For me, I don't eat pasta, rice, or flour, just to stay so I'm not, it doesn't pack on me, so I can still fit my dress. My dress is about 10 years old, and it's my favorite. I refuse to give it up.
Wow.
Yes.
Buffy, traditional food.
Well, I think that my upbringing has allowed me to have a unique approach and just kind of maintaining, again, honoring something that the Creator has blessed us with, which is our physical form. And being mindful of that on a daily basis and really kind of learning, in depth what that ceremony of dance consists of. And part of that practice of being mindfulness, that we as an individual have a conscientious decision that we have the right to choose every single day what we are going to be doing to honor the physical form that we have been given, which is, practicing that mindfulness of, am I going to drink more water today? Am I going to, choose right by the different types of foods? And so my upbringing, living off of the land, I even still now, I find myself craving more natural foods than processed foods. So wild rice, moose meat, the fish that has been caught by our own people are things that I still like to maintain. And then really understanding about what fasting seasons that interconnect with the ceremony of dance and that time of year. It is according to season as well of what your body craves for. So I think that all of these things kind of get intertwined. So as far as a specific diet, I mean, I am physically fit every single morning. I spend, 15 to 20 minutes with meditation and my own spirit, and then get into my physical form. And that really does allow me to catapult forward for the rest of the day. And I find quite often when you're doing something physically healthy, and you kind of gain a nice momentum, and you intertwine some things that that are interconnected, that you actually start choosing better food, and you feel inspired and motivated to want to start choosing or even just start craving for better food. So for me, it's every time that I put something in my mouth, I always ask myself, am I craving this, or am I giving my body what it actually needs? And that is a practice of being mindful.
Yeah. So Michelle, I'm curious, have you made this sort of your mission to help get people connected with their culture through dance?
Yes, actually, where I work at the University of Manitoba, right? We did this, it was called the Anishinaabe Cardio. And it was to bring in the form of dance, because when you see dancing, right, you think that, oh yeah, I could do that. But once you actually get something...
Oh, I thought that watching Buffy here yesterday, and let me tell you, I changed my mind very quickly.
Yeah. And there was I had a group that that I taught at the university, and then they couldn't believe what it took to actually to dance, to actually have a form and to actually do it, right, and to do it for 3 minutes. They were actually,
It was 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was. They found it kind of tough, but it was good for me, because it's and they had a new appreciation for the dance.
I'd like to see, and why don't we see more of this in community centers, in communities? These types of things to encourage people to get out and use this to get fit.
I think it takes a little more than just let's do this kind of thing. You got to take a lot of planning and putting it out there. But during the off season, everybody has the dance fever, and everybody wants to get together and such. It's just finding the spot, finding somebody who's going to do it, and the dancers come.
Well, maybe this is the challenge that we can put out today to everybody who's watching. If you could dance, think about how you could convert that into something that would get other community members to get a little bit more fit. Anyways, we're going to have to go to another break. I do believe the voices in my head are telling me. Like actual voices. It's not. There's somebody in this ear. So we are going to take a break. When we come back, we've got James is going to be back here with us, and we've got a girl who's joining us from Terrace, BC, who we talked to earlier this week. We'll hear from her. She is a figure skater. Tayshawn Henry is her name. I spoke with her and her mother, Robin. So stay with us. Hello and welcome back. Tayshawn Angeline Henry is a 15-year-old figure skater living in Terrace, British Columbia. She's Gitxsan Tsimshian member. She is a Gitxsan Tsimshian member, and she's featured on next month's cover of Hoop magazine. It's a U.S. publication that profiles successful Indigenous people. It's the second time that Tayshawn's been featured in this magazine, and she's only been skating for 9 years. Tayshawn has competed in numerous competitions throughout British Columbia, with an upcoming Super Series coming in March 2019 in Kelowna. Tayshawn and her mom, Robin, joined us by Skype earlier this week. Here's what they had to say. Hey, thank you guys for joining us. Tayshawn, you have said, and I've got a quote here from your local newspaper, a lot of Natives don't get this far in sports and they can't really afford it, and there's a little bit of discrimination, so a lot of teenagers don't believe in themselves and put themselves down. How do you stay above that?
Like, how do I stay above that? Or
yeah, how do you power through?
I just ignore like the people that tries to let me down sometimes, and I just work hard with my mom, and I encourage my mom sometimes to like fundraise a lot. And, yeah.
And I mean, how much time do you even spend at the rink to be this competitive?
A lot. Like, I skate at least about
5 days a week.
Yeah.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
Robin, you are a fundraising superstar on Facebook, we've seen. How do you get, what type of support do you get from your community?
Oh, wow. Actually, it all comes, for a few years now, it's come from all over. Our local community, I cook from home a lot of the times, friends and family. They help support us by buying dinners. We get donations for loonie auctions that I like to put up a lot. The Lac of Lambs community, where my husband's from, we go back annually, and that's the biggest one, actually, loonie auction every year. They almost pay for half of Tayshawn's skating year for the past few years now.
Wow, and how much does it cost to keep a child at this level, this competitive level of skating every year, would you say?
Oh, wow. Because we travel at least 3 or 4 different places per year, hotels, travel. Right now, I just say it's about, it is definitely over $5,000 per year.
Wow.
I don't have an exact number.
And Tayshawn, what advice do you give to young Indigenous athletes who are pursuing their dreams?
To just keep going and don't let anybody stop their dreams, and to not make them sabotage them. And yeah, to just keep going and never stop.
Is it hard to stay focused?
Sometimes, yeah.
Lots of distractions out there. What is next for you? Where do you hope that figure skating takes you, Tayshawn?
I'm not really sure, because I never thought I'd be this recognized, and I never thought I would be on a magazine when I'm skating, so the future brings a lot of surprises. So yeah, I'm possibly thinking of being on Disney on Ice or something.
That's awesome. Well, and you'd be paid at that point, so you wouldn't be having to pay, you'd be getting paid to do it. Robin, what advice do you have for parents of young Indigenous athletes?
Oh, things will always get tough no matter what. Power through it all. Don't listen to any negativity. You know, when you feel like you're at your breaking point, that just means that you're going to go up from there. So always keep trying. Look at us. We're a couple normal small town people, and amazing things are happening to us, and we never thought that would.
Awesome. I thank you guys so much for joining us today. We'll be following you, Tayshawn, to see where this figure skating takes you in the future. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joining me in studio again is James Lavallee. He is a Métis kayaker. He is he won 3 medals at the 2017 Canada Games right here in Winnipeg, the homeland of the Métis Nation, where he grew up. So it was quite the place to chalk up those victories. So you've talked a little bit too about what you want to do for people like Tayshawn, who we just saw. What do you want to do for the youth?
Totally. Yeah, well, in the sport of kayaking, you know, it's an Indigenous sport. Kelly Fraser recently told me that kayak is actually pronounced kayak because it's an Inuit word.
Yeah.
So that's something that no one talks about. Like, we don't go to national championships and people are like, hey, you know, this is like, these kayaks came from Inuit people and they're a modern version, but no one really connects to that. And there's very few Indigenous people for it being, you know, an Indigenous sport.
Right.
And that's concerning to me. And, you know, I was very fortunate that I had a lot of support growing up, and I had a lot of, I was able to participate in sport, and not everyone has that opportunity. So I really want to post-kayaking career when I'm home full-time is to kickstart some programs that are going to make a difference for a lot of Indigenous youth. And we can start using the river and these boats in a way that's bringing us back to tradition and spirit and, you know, solidifying a lot of identity and all those sorts of things.
I love this. And so you're in school too.
Yes.
Tell me what's when you're done that, where you want to go career-wise.
That is a great question. So I only take school part of the year, so I have a long journey ahead of me in school if I continue to kayak and go at the same pace that I'm going on. But regardless of what degree I'm kind of getting, the paddling is kind of a main focus. The paddling programs is a main focus of mine. So we'll see how the education component work plans out. It's going okay right now.
What are you in?
University 1 currently, still. This is term 3.
Well, I mean, you're busy. We heard from you what your training schedule is like. I don't know how you would, squeeze full-time education into that too, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of going into agroecology.
What is that?
So it's agriculture, but it's a type of looking at agriculture with an ecological lens. So maximizing performance of farms while using more ecosystem functions.
And you plan to stay here?
I would love to stay here. I have a girlfriend in Quebec now.
Oh.
So this is,
just don't bring her here in the winter and then try to convince her to move to Winnipeg.
Yeah, well, she came here in the fall, so I think she really enjoyed it. So I'll just work on convincing her to make the switch.
I like this. So tell me, what's next for you as a paddler?
For sure.
What's coming up?
Well, I'm always kind of looking at things in short-term and long-term goals. So my chunk right now, I'm thinking about getting as strong as I can, making sure that when I'm coming under the water, I'm strong, explosive, and just ready to rip it up. And then for this year, I'm really trying to, there's a few things that are kind of going on, but I really want to make it into the K4 500 meter. So whether that's with the national team or with a club team, I'm training in Trois-Rivières, training within Trois-Rivières, there we go. And so that's kind of where I'm aiming to do, because if we can be the fastest crew in Canada, hopefully we can qualify that spot for the Olympics in 2020.
So I guess I said that you won medals at the Canada Summer Games. What were the events specifically that you medaled in?
The K4 200.
What's the K4 200?
Sorry, I should have specified that. A K4 is a kayak for 4 people.
Okay.
And a K1 would be a kayak for 1 person.
Okay.
So I medaled in the K1 500, the K1 200, and as well as the K4 200.
And how many events are there?
In the Olympics, for the men's kayak, there's a K1 200, K1000, K2000, and the K4 500. So there's, I think that was 4.
Yeah, okay.
Correctly.
You had said too before we came in here, when we were talking in the green room, that you had canoed too previously.
Yeah, well, kayaking's my main thing. But we do participate in marathon canoeing. So we have the sprint kayak is kind of what I do, and often in the fall when kind of things are relaxed, I'll paddle a marathon canoe. So you sit with two people, and normally you're doing really far, longer distances sort of thing. It's kind of more of a traditional canoe racing, and there's a big circuit of that goes to a bunch of reserves up north and a bunch of different communities. And it's amazing. So the Pascoac Indian Days has like a huge, it's a 3-day event, and I was racing that a couple years ago, and a couple of my other training partners are doing more of the marathon stuff now, and it's very interesting, and I hope to do more of that.
I was going to say, this is a news story. We're going to come in
Absolutely.
and follow this.
Yeah,
You'll let us know when you're doing it again?
And I'll put you in touch with the right people, too. So.
I love it. Well, I'm so glad you could come in here today and take time out of your busy day to come and share this with us, because it is important. I think that, if we got more youth focused on things like this, it's useful, to say the least, in many ways. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. I'm hoping that you guys got something out of this too. You can actually find this on download as a podcast. I can't speak today. On our website at aptnnews.ca/podcast. If you missed any of the other shows and you want to catch up, you can actually check them out on the website, aptnnews.ca. Thanks so much to my guest, James Lavallee, for coming in studio today, and for Michelle for being in studio, and Buffy on the phone, and of course, Veronica, who joined us off the top from our bureau in Yellowknife. Thanks to everybody, and have a great afternoon.